All right, welcome to our latest explainer. Today, we are diving into a massive paradigm shift in how we generate power, and honestly, it completely blew my mind. We're exploring the 2026 phenomenon of building integrated photovoltaics. It's a technology that's actively challenging those traditional, massive rooftop solar panels we're all so used to seeing. Basically, we're moving from the roof directly to the window, and the implications for our cities are absolutely massive.
1.1 million. Between 2023 and 2025, that is the staggering number of plug-in solar systems registered in Germany alone. Think about that scale for a second. We aren't just talking about a niche hobbyist trend here. We're witnessing a grassroots shift in decentralized energy. Renters and apartment dwellers, people who have literally been locked out of the solar market for decades, are suddenly generating their own power.
Okay, let's dive into this. The engine driving this urban energy revolution is beautifully captured in a single German word, the Balkonkraftwerk. It translates to a balcony power plant. It's exactly what it sounds like, a small, plug-and-play solar system that you are legally allowed to plug right into a standard household wall socket. There's no heavy construction, absolutely no massive grid overhauls, it's just power flowing directly from your balcony to your toaster.
To really grasp this revolution, here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the balcony solar boom, then get into the physics of transparency, the efficiency versus visibility trade-off, some real-world scenarios, and finally, wrap up with the future urban grid.
Okay, Section 1, the balcony solar boom, regulatory catalysts and technological evolution.
It's really vital to understand that technological availability alone didn't cause this explosion. Actually, it was a perfect storm of material science meeting progressive regulations. If we look back, starting way back in 1954, Bell Labs demonstrated the photovoltaic effect, and by 1977, we saw early concepts of luminescent solar concentrators. But the real catalysts, they happened in the 2020s. In 2024, Germany's Solar Packet 1 legalized the 800-watt plug-in limit, and then came the real game changer, the 2026 VDE standard. It removed the DC module limit entirely. That means you can pack up to 7,000 watts of solar capacity onto your balcony, pretty much guaranteeing high power output even on cloudy days.
Moving on to Section 2, the physics of transparency, how clear glass generates power.
This brings us to a core scientific mystery. How exactly does a clear piece of glass capture sunlight? Well, traditional rooftop physics is basically brute force. It uses thick, opaque silicon wafers designed to absorb absolutely all light to maximize electron generation. But transparent architectures? They take a totally selective approach. They use quantum dots to harvest the invisible spectrum, specifically ultraviolet and near-infrared light, while letting the visible light pass straight through to your eyes. So here is exactly how that invisible harvest works, step by step. First, silicon quantum dots embedded inside the glass absorb high-energy UV photons. Second, these photons are re-emitted at a lower energy level. This relies on something called the Stokes shift, which is brilliant because it prevents the glass from just reabsorbing its own emitted energy. Third, through total internal reflection, the glass acts kind of like a highway, bouncing light sideways to the edges. Finally, hidden opaque solar strips tucked perfectly inside the window frame convert that channeled light directly into electricity. Let's look at Section 3, efficiency versus visibility, or the AVT-PCE trade-off. As incredible as those quantum dot waveguides are, they do introduce a fundamental physics conflict. It is mathematically impossible to have both a perfectly clear view and maximum electrical power. Think of the relationship between light utilization, power conversion, and visible transmittance like a slider. Visible light makes up roughly 47% of all solar energy. If you slide the transmittance up to let that light pass through your window, you instantly forfeit half of your potential energy harvest. You just simply cannot generate power from photons you don't capture. Now, what's really interesting is how stark the numbers are when you map out this trade-off. A traditional opaque rooftop panel sits comfortably at about 24% efficiency. But the moment you start prioritizing aesthetics, performance drops. Semi-transparent panels drop to around 15%, and fully clear concentrators plummet to a maximum of around 5%. So you are making a deliberate choice, sacrificing raw thermodynamic yield for transparency.
Section 4. Real-world solar scenarios. Economics of the 2026 market.
Theoretical physics are fascinating, right? But how does this all translate to your wallet? Let's look at 3 quick case studies. Case A is our baseline heavyweight champion, the suburban rooftop array down in Bavaria. With a €12,000 investment, it yields a massive 7,200 kilowatt hours annually. That's enough to cover heavy loads like heat pumps and EVs. The payback period is 6 to 9 years. The catch? Extreme installation complexity. We're talking structural engineering approvals, licensed electricians, scaffolding, and months waiting for permits.
Contrast that massive undertaking with KSP, the agile urban disruptor. This is an opaque Balkonkraftwerk retrofitted onto a fourth-floor balcony in Hamburg. The total investment? Just €550. It's self-installed in like 45 minutes using non-drilling clamps. It yields 700 kilowatt-hours annually, and it pays for itself in an astonishing 2.1 years. But the major downside is that it's purely utilitarian. It completely blocks the lower half of your balcony view, so I really hope you like staring at the back of a solar panel.
And finally, KC presents the high-end alternative, a semi-transparent balcony in Tokyo. At €2,800, it replaces standard glass seamlessly. It yields 380 kilowatt-hours annually, which stretches the payback period out to over 15 years. But the value proposition here isn't raw financial ROI, it's aesthetic integration. It acts as a privacy tint and a UV blocker, all while ensuring compliance with really strict zero-emission building mandates.
And this brilliantly illustrates the complete 2026 landscape. Choosing between these typologies is simply a matter of what you need to prioritize. If you have the space and capital, traditional rooftop offers the highest absolute yield. If you want blazing fast financial payback and literally don't care about the view, the opaque balcony system is unmatched. And if architectural integration is your paramount concern, transparent BIPV is for sure your solution.
Let's wrap up with Section 5, the future urban grid, tandem cells, and smart windows.
So what does the horizon look like as we push into the 2030s? Well, the state-of-the-art developments are truly science fiction turned reality. We are looking at 3 major leaps. First up, tandem architectures, layering perovskites over silicon to push transparent cell efficiency toward 18% while keeping your view perfectly clear. Second, smart windows by 2028. Imagine a window that uses its own invisible solar power to dynamically tint its glass, drastically reducing a skyscraper's air conditioning load without any external wiring. Incredible. Finally, legislative normalization. The plug-and-play model is expanding globally, shifting from permitting by exception to a fundamental, legal right to generate for billions of apartment dwellers worldwide.
You know, when reading through the research, a crucial point really stood out to me. The discourse surrounding transparent solar balconies versus traditional rooftop PV is fundamentally flawed if framed as a zero-sum competition. It just isn't an either-or situation. Traditional rooftops and transparent balconies serve completely different vectors of the energy transition. Traditional roofs will always be the champion of absolute thermodynamic efficiency.
But transparent balcony solar brings us something arguably way more important, the democratization of energy. Sacrificing absolute efficiency for spatial utility is a more than worthy trade-off. It empowers renters, it bypasses massive structural red tape, and it unlocks millions of square kilometers of vertical urban facades that were previously completely dead to the energy grid. It literally turns passive architecture into an active power plant.
Which leaves us with this final thought. The technology is here, the physics are proven, and the regulations are finally catching up. So when you look out your window tomorrow, will you see an obstacle to the sun or a microgrid waiting to be plugged in?